Howdy, howdy, and welcome back to Gale FFTCG. I'm Serah, your host, and today we're doing our Opus 22 Water Rarity review. Please drop a like, let me know what cards you're excited for, and if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. Really helps out. So today we're looking at water, and right out of the gate we have a super strong common in 1 CP Agrius. It's a job knight. That's a very relevant job at 1 CP 3k as well. That when it enters the field, we choose a forward of cost 3 or less opponent controls. If we control 2 or more job knight, we return it to its owner's hand. This is incredible with the new Gorilla Legend, which I just love. I think this is great. I have always been an enjoyer of the knight's archetype, so to see something super cool like this that really synergizes well with its respective archetype is awesome. Damage 3, Agrius being a 7k is also nothing to sneeze at. It can really turn a game around to have something so cheap that's a big body and removal. That's pretty good. And the only problem is if you play this early game, it's going to be pretty easy to remove. I don't think your opponent will want to waste removal, but they can, Brynhilde this and then draw a card, and then you're down a forward, but they're up a card, and that's kind of good. So I think that's like the only thing to look out for. I think this card is still really strong, has a lot of good implications, and it's fantastic for a common. Up next, this is a very specific card, but in our rare slot, 2CP Yuna was definitely a standout. This was the YYT spoiler, very fitting. It's a summoner that when it enters the field during this turn, the cost required to cast Tidus is reduced by 2. It can't become 0. That's irrelevant, especially with some of the Tiduses that we do already have. There's a lot of really good ones right now. There's the Wind one from the Dissidia Final Fantasy decks, which this Yuna is also Dissidia Final Fantasy, so that kind of works together. That being 3CP 9k that bounces something and gains you a crystal and draws you a card says a whole lot for Tidus. Gives a lot of good context to a lot of different Tidus. One card named Tidus enters your field. You can choose a summon in your break zone, add it to your hand. It triggers only once per turn, but that is also a particularly powerful effect for effectively getting you another card, and this Yuna is free if you play the Tidus. That's kind of cool. I think that's really great. Only cons, it's easy to remove. This dies to Brynhilde, but a lot of good cards die to Brynhilde, so I don't think this is a reason not to play this. In fact, I think this card gets specifically good with the new Limit Break Tidus, which, spoiler, I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this video. In our hero slot, though, was a card that nobody expected, but that was really awesome. It's Miwa, 2CP, Agato Cadet, if that's relevant. Type 0. Back attack, when Miwa enters the field, you can activate all the forwards you control and negate all damage dealt to them. I'm not exactly sure how that clause works. I would need to look it up, but I think, and I say that very lightly, that basically it negates damage that has already been dealt to them, not the other way around, where it doesn't, it effectively clears all previous damage dealt to them, not damage that will be dealt to them, because then that becomes the whole damage that is dealt is reduced to 0 clause, and it doesn't have that. Damage 5, when Miwa enters the field, all forwards you control gain plus 2k. This is really fun as like just a little trick that forces your opponent to be very careful when they're playing, especially in the late game. Being able to activate all your forwards and then have them be really good blocks is pretty insane. But your opponent also has to worry about this on your attacking turns. Maybe you have 5 forwards and they have a pretty large board, and you swing in and they're like, oh, I'm going to block. But wait, you have 2 CP open, or you have 2 cards in hand. Basically, any water deck, you have to suspect your opponent has that. And that's very strong. That's very good. That surprise factor is incredible. I have put this under the what cons. I don't see any personally. Maybe you have to play this out of your hand at normal pace, but I don't see why you ever would. I can't see a lot of cons to this. Let me know if you think maybe there's something in here that isn't all that I'm missing that isn't all that great, but I think this card is a fantastic hero. I really have to say, the heroes in this set got a lot, and I'm very happy to see that. And finally, our legend. It is in fact a Tidus, and this does work with the Yuna. It's a limit break. 5 CP 9k, so it's outside of the game. It means we have access to it basically as long as it's in our deck. When Tidus enters the field, if you control 8 or more forwards and or backups, it's not of a specific element, so that's worth knowing. You can pay 3 water, and when you do so, you select up to 3 of the 3 following actions. Choose 1 forward, put it at the bottom of its owner's deck. Choose 1 backup, put it on top of its owner's deck, and draw 2 cards. You get all 3 of those. It's up to, so maybe you don't want to use any, but I can't see a world where that makes any sense whatsoever. This is an incredible card. Hands down. Being able to have Yuna in your deck and make this cost less is just really strong. This takes this from costing 8 with the ability to costing 6 with the ability, and that is something that should not be underestimated. That is a card you have access to all the time because of Limit Break. The setup does require 8 characters, but that's not a lot. Or it's forwards and or backups, but that's not a lot. Water has a lot of ways of getting backups and forwards on the field very quickly. If you're in Water Wind, you are also running backup packages that get you to those things very quickly. It's a great card. I think the cons are very much mitigated by a lot of the context around it. It's very versatile, and I'm very excited to play with this card. And that is the end of the video, dear friends. We are almost all the way through our set reviews at this point. Don't forget to drop a like. Let me know what cards you're excited for in the comments. And if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. It really helps out. Have a great day and a great rest of your week.